What is up, YouTube and Facebook? We are live, and we're live on Instagram. How's it going on Instagram, Rammer? When was the last time we did a live? It's been 2 weeks.
Oh, yep, I think so.
It's been 2 weeks since we did a live. Hopefully, y'all recognize that we're on live.
I just got a notification that Live Savage is now live on YouTube.
Boom. Since it's been 2 weeks, it may take a little bit longer for people to jump on here because they probably think we're MIA, missing in action. But we are here. We are alive. We are well. We got Raiji in the building. We got Crystal in the house. And we got yours truly, Roberto. So hopefully everybody is doing great. How you doing, baby?
Great.
How you doing, Raiji?
Great.
So let's talk about OMAD to start. 1 meal a day. OMAD. That's a popular topic. It's a popular feeding frequency to only eat 1 meal a day. Let's talk about some of the pros and cons to OMAD. The reason I figured we'd do this topic is because I started doing OMAD the last week. So I am currently doing OMAD, which means I eat once a day, typically in about 30 minutes. So I've basically got a 23.5-hour fasting window before my next meal consumption, which is a long time between meals. So why in the first place? Actually, let's talk about why one would not want to do OMAD in the first place. So OMAD is not likely going to be optimal if the primary goal is to build muscle, if the primary goal is to get in a surplus of calories, or if it is to stimulate muscle protein synthesis multiple times throughout the day, which is beneficial. Generally speaking, activating muscle protein synthesis 2, 3, 4 times a day is good. You can do that via weight training. You can do that by eating ample leucine in a meal with ample protein, which is usually 30 or 40 grams in a meal. So if your primary goal is to build muscle, you're probably not going to want to do OMAD. First of all, it'd be hard to eat a surplus of calories in one meal. For me, a surplus of calories is about 3,200 or more. Eating 3,200 calories in one meal would be a bit of a stretch. However, I am not trying to build muscle right now. I'm trying to preserve muscle. I'm in a deficit. I'm eating about 2,100 calories. And I like OMAD at this stage because it allows me to have one large meal and actually feel satisfied. The psychological component of feeling full while in a prep is advantageous for me, which is why I'm doing it right now. If I am weight training like I am and I'm consuming ample protein in that 1 meal a day, I am not likely at much of a risk of losing lean tissue. That, coupled with the fact that the ketogenic diet is very anti-catabolic and spares muscle, puts my mind at rest even more. So I'm not worried about losing muscle by eating 1 meal a day, given my current macros and training load, but I am not likely going to be building muscle with 1 meal a day. So that is something you want to keep in mind with OMAD. A lot of people are doing OMAD because they want to increase their fasting window because of all the autophagy and cell apoptosis that we hear about as the buzzwords in the fasting community. And that is all great and fine and dandy, but a lot of people are not consuming ample calories or ample protein. So you have to make sure that those boxes are checked if you are going to be doing OMAD.
Any type of fasting.
Yeah, any type of fasting for that matter. OMAD is not fasting. It's intermittent fasting. Yeah, it's intermittent fasting, but it's not extended fasting. So really it just comes down to what is the primary goal and how best to achieve that. The goal is to build muscle. Don't do OMAD. If the goal is to preserve muscle and you're eating low enough on the calories because you're trying to prioritize for a cut, which a lot of people do too frequently, then it can be a viable option for feeding frequency. So there's my 2 cents on OMAD. A couple more cents on OMAD would be to make sure that you are consuming a mix of fat and protein in that meal. No carbs necessary, but do consume fat and protein in that meal. Protein in isolation is not going to be assimilated as well by the body. The fat helps slow the digestion and increase the absorption rate of that protein. And every cell in the body is covered by a lipid bilayer, and having fat-soluble vitamins and dietary fat with the protein helps the absorption of the protein. What else? You got anything to add to that, babe?
No, I think you said it all very well. I
All
have
right.
a crawler. I have someone who just needs his daddy.
You have a
Dad.
crawler.
Your dad.
All right. I'll hold him. You talk for a minute.
I will go through some of the people who are messaging on here.
Oh.
Woofda.
It was good to be back and chatting with y'all, though.
Oh, sure does.
Let me go
All
through
right,
some
we
of
got
these
some.
too.
Hello, Savage family, catching you on the live from an airport. I will be in your area next week and excited to see you all.
Nice. What's
We're
up,
excited to
Greg?
see you
We're
as
excited to see
well.
you too, man. Oops. MJ Hawk. Hello there, savages. What's up, MJ Hawk? TM, hi, how you doing? Mitzi says I'm watching y'all and Ken at the same time.
Oh, it's funny. Are they live? Did they do a live at the same time?
Yeah, Mitzi, does Ken do a live at the same time? If so, he's got a bigger audience than we do, probably.
We should probably
We're gonna be live at
change
5:30. Just got YouTube notice. Nice. Let's go a little late, but we're here. Hey, being better late than never. Do you think time of meals matters? I am never hungry in the afternoon, so I mostly eat in the morning, and I love eating late at night before bed, mostly high protein snack, but still. I would not probably eat a super high protein meal before you go to bed because of what I just talked about with the fat helping the absorption of the protein. And if you have protein, like a lot of protein and not very much fat right before going to bed, that's going to cause more blood sugar dysregulation as you sleep, which would be suboptimal from a quality rest standpoint. So I don't recommend doing that. I do sometimes have a bolus of fat before I go to bed, but not really a bolus of protein. And meal timing isn't of utmost importance, but you need to make sure you're consuming ample nutrition, ample fat, ample protein throughout the day. And it does kind of come into play when trying to optimize muscle protein synthesis. You still do a fat coffee during prep? Yeah, but my macros are such now that the fat in my coffee is a whopping 3 grams of fat. So I'm getting 3 tablespoons of like a nut pods creamer. So not very much at all, really.
I will say for the meal timing and stuff, there's a lot of science that does say like eating in the morning can help a lot with like adrenals, cortisol levels, things like that, especially for females. So I personally have been having breakfast since I was pregnant with Rigel, just because that works better for me, and I've kept it up ever since, and I have felt so good eating breakfast every single day and actually eating less later in the day. So that's my 2 cents on meal timing. I think it could be beneficial to try and front load your food into the earlier parts of the day.
But your breakfast doesn't need to be, nor should it be, a balanced breakfast full of oatmeal and orange juice and all that stuff.
No,
that they
just
tell
like
you.
I have eggs and yogurt usually, like eggs, yogurt, maybe a little cheese on top, etc.
Bad habits with the protein at night. I'm assuming you're talking about. When is Lady Savage going to compete again?
Well, I'm actually competing in powerlifting next month, but I don't know that I will do another bodybuilding show. If I do, it'll be after we're completely done having kids.
Yes. Which, who knows when that will be. This little munchkin's a handful by himself. All right, any other questions, y'all? We pretty much hit the OMAD thing there, so it's open table discussion now. Anything that y'all want to throw at us?
Yeah, if you guys have specific OMAD questions or just questions in general,
throw them our way.
Throw them at us.
Throw them at us. Isn't that right?
He took the best nap ever today.
Really? How long?
3 hours and 15 minutes.
What? You took a 3 hour and 15-minute nap?
So crazy. I got so much stuff done.
That's crazy. What'd you do?
I did a whole bunch of different things.
Well, I'm excited to hear all about it. All right, what other questions we got, y'all? Questions, concerns, comments? We've been gone for 2 weeks. Lay it on us. Throw 2 weeks of content at us right now. What other things we got exciting in the works? Our garden is going bonkers. Like, we're growing all kinds of stuff right now. Hot peppers, bell
lots
peppers.
of tomatoes. I'm going to make a salsa this weekend. I might just look at a bunch of different recipes and try to figure out what I think is going to be the most delicious and put it together.
What is your typical OMAD meal look like?
Where are you seeing that?
You just
not sure.
Right now with my macros, my OMAD is 1 full chocolate peanut butter cup keto brick. It is venison, ground venison, eggs, and wild salmon. So I'm pretty much having all of that in a big dish baked together. Not the brick. The brick is not baked in there. But the brick and then the meat. The meat is all baked together. Lotus, what's up?
Did you guys prep cook for your meal or just eat on the fly when you were traveling? So I prepped all of Robert's food ahead of time. And then actually I prepped all of our food ahead of time.
What's up, buddy?
Robert's was already like cooked into one container. Rigel and I just cooked a bunch of like scrambled eggs and then ground beef and things like that. And then we just kind of ate. Rigel and I kind of just threw it together whenever we were ready to eat. But Robert's was already ready in like a container.
What's up? Let's take him for a second. Oh boy.
He's a handful.
Yeah, 3.5 hour nap. He shouldn't be.
Yeah, he should be. He should have all the energy now.
We spoke by email on your unparalleled level of discipline and lightness on the drivers. All right, so discipline. Motivation is great, but motivation is fleeting. Discipline is where it's at. Discipline for me is my superpower as a human being. So I like doing things that people tell me I can't do for eternity. I like hearing that something is going to take 10 years to see the fruits of my labor with daily action. Like that's what gets me excited. That kind of stuff is what gets me up in the morning. That's why I like bodybuilding. That's why I like business, because it's like the consistent effort over time is where the fruits of your labor are shown. As far as how one acquires that level of discipline, it's honestly just like a mental decision. Like you decide. I mean, you got to recognize that the time is going to pass regardless. Like the time will pass. You will die. It's just reality. You can spend that time doing things that are superficial and will not have a lasting effect and do not contribute to your overall betterment and the betterment of those around you. Or you can do things that you know with certainty will. And if the time's going to pass anyways, you might as well do the things that will contribute to the overall betterment. And when you realize that, you can't not be excited about it because you recognize that you're going to be doing something that's making a positive impact on your own life and those that you love. So that's kind of my stance on discipline there. What do you think about CGMs? Do you use them or use them in the past as a tool? I have used them. I've actually got one in a box right over there that I'm going to be putting on my arm probably next week. I'm not a diabetic. You don't have to use a CGM. But for me, I'm going to be doing it for the next 2 weeks because I'm increasing my protein, and my protein is getting quite high right now relative to my dietary fat. And I'm curious to see what my own unique protein threshold is. And the CGM will give me some more actionable data in finding and determining what that threshold is. So as my protein's increasing and my fat is dropping, I will see a corresponding increase in blood glucose, decrease in blood ketones, and the CGM will also reflect that. So
I have only used a CGM one time, well, I guess twice, but it was in my pregnancy to avoid the glucose tolerance test. And I found it to be very boring for myself because I eat pretty much the same things all the time. I know how my body's going to respond and react. So if you're trying to figure out what foods you want to eat, if you're trying to add more variety to your life, if things like that, like if you're trying to figure out how your body responds to certain foods and things, I would definitely get one. Like I think it's a worthwhile thing. But if you're eating the same thing every day, you know pretty much how your body's going to respond, you feel great with it, then there's probably not a whole lot of reason to have one. Like for me personally, they're very expensive to be eating the same thing all the time and not see it. Like mine was just like a straight line all the time.
Yeah, if you're doing a ketogenic animal-based diet high in fat and protein, you're probably going to have a relatively boring CGM curve because you shouldn't really have much of a curve. It should be a good solid baseline that stays pretty consistent, doesn't have any lows or highs. Now you will see some things that are cause it to spike a little bit, like weight training. Weight training will elicit a temporary spike in blood glucose. That's totally physiologically normal and to be expected, but you can just kind of see that with the CGM, which is kind of cool.
We are really all here for Rigel.
I know, he's the star of the show.
She said, I agree, Holly. Can all of the keto bricks be melted like Keto Greg did, making carnivore ice cream this weekend? Yes.
Yes.
They all can be melted down. Some are going to be a little bit thicker than others, but they all do melt down the same way.
And they're all delicious.
Yes.
Michael, do you still use esters and do you recommend them? So esters are great. I don't really use them from a performance standpoint. Crystal, we're going to play around with using them for her powerlifting needs. I noticed more of a benefit from a psychological benefit, like a nootropic aid, so to speak. Taking an ester before a podcast, I feel like I can just recall data a little bit better and just be a little more focused. But yeah, I don't really use them as a pre-workout. There have been some people that have used them like for sleep recovery, so that would be interesting. But I don't really use them as a performance, substance at all necessarily. I love them. Totally opened my eyes as far as how different SB. What is SB? What's SB?
Sugar.
Yeah, I don't know. Hi, I'm new here. What's up, Justin? We are glad to have you here.
Welcome. Hey guys, just wanted to thank you for all the info you are putting out. Diving now deep into Robert's book, All the Best from Greece.
Awesome. Well, I hope you love it. If you have any questions on the book, let us know. We're happy to help. I got you.
Do you know what might happen if you eat protein and fat, but glucose is all over the place?
If you eat protein and fat, but glucose is all over the place. Like, is it a pretty even ratio of protein to fat? Or are you doing some fat, a ton of protein, some protein, and a ton of fat? Like, what kind of fat and protein intake are we talking about here? Half a pint of blueberries hiked my blood glucose to 180, higher than ever, even regular ice cream. Crazy. So no more blueberries. Only 85% dark chocolate and keto bricks. Dark chocolate doesn't raise it.
Yeah, berries definitely have sugar in it, and some people respond to it a lot faster than others, for sure.
For sure. What is ester? So ester is basically a ketone ester is, so you've got ketone salts, you've got exogenous ketones. So we produce ketones endogenously via a ketogenic diet, via the absence of carbohydrates. Ketones can cross the blood-brain barrier. They can be used as an energy source. It's kind of like a fourth macronutrient, so to speak. And you can get them exogenously, so externally, through either ketone esters or ketone salts. You can get the beta hydroxybutyrate salts. The problem with the salts is that they're not really going to be that high of a dose of ketones, and you're likely going to hit a mineral threshold from the sodium, potassium, or calcium that it's bound to before you would benefit from the exogenous ketones that they're producing or that they're bringing in. Whereas the ester is not bound to those minerals, has a higher absorption rate, has a higher concentration, and will have a bigger impact on circulating blood ketone levels. They're absorbed more readily. They're going to be more potent. And some people use them for performance. Some people use them for recovery. There's not really any point to using them, in my opinion, like to justify carbs. Like some people will have carbs and they'll slam down an ester so that they can register 0.5 or greater shortly after eating carbs, which to me totally defeats the purpose. Like you got to figure out why you're going to be consuming these things. They do contain calories. Now, most studies suggest there's not really going to be any caloric load from those exogenous ketones that gets translated to additional body fat because they're metabolized so quickly, kind of like alcohol. But I mean, too much alcohol obviously is going to cause body fat, but it's not the same biochemistry as an ester. But it's kind of a roundabout answer to say it's an exogenous ketone molecule.
A Rigel question: how do you meet his iron requirements? Just learned that 7 to 12 months need a whopping 11 milligrams. So Rigel is 14 months now. We made it through. We made it through a whole year. And when your animal, when your child is,
He is an animal.
when your child is primarily meat-based, that's not a really big issue because you're going to get a lot of meat or a lot of iron from the meat. We also do give him things like liver and like liver pate and things like that as well. If it's a concern, I think it's mostly a concern for a lot of parents who are giving them rice snacks and filler foods and lots of fruits and things like that. Rigel doesn't eat those things. So when he has a meal, he's getting meats or cheeses or maybe some vegetables or something like that. So he's getting a lot of nutrient dense foods, eggs, yogurts, things like that. So with a typical American, that seems like a lot. Like, oh my gosh, how are we supposed to get a child this much iron? When in reality, if you're giving them nutrient dense foods, some organ meats and things like that, it's really not that hard to get in. Now, if your child is one that doesn't eat a lot of meat or doesn't like it very much, there are things that you can do. Like there are these stones. They're iron stones you can put in boiling water and then give that water to them, and you'll have that iron in the water. We also cook everything in cast iron, so there's also that benefit of cooking in cast iron. So it's not something that we've ever really had to worry about, although I knew about it. We don't really have to worry about it. He just seems like super healthy, super happy. We've had zero issues so far. His doctor has no concerns, so all is well. But those would be my suggestions.
Michael says, how is the Zen experiment going? I like the Zen. I've been having it. That could be we can all do that as a Live at 5 topic. So next week's Live at 5 is going to be on nicotine. We'll make that a thing. But real quick to answer your question, I like it. For anybody tuning in right now, Zen is a nicotine like pouch that you put in your lip. I'm doing a 3 milligram pouch. All of the studies that correlate nicotine with cancer are done when the delivery vehicle is tobacco based. So vaping, smoking, dipping, snuffing, those are horrendous for your health. Don't ever do it. It's a 50-fold increase in cancer. Not the smartest thing you can do. Probably the dumbest thing you could do. So don't do that. I mean, it just is. Like, I'm not judging. I mean, if you're smoking, that's your prerogative. A lot of people are addicted to cigarettes. Nicotine is addictive as a substance, but nicotine in isolation is not going to be what's causing cancer. It does have a slight appetite suppressant effect and can cause some, focus.
What's up? Sorry.
He's got my headphones on. What's the matter, buddy?
Oh. Did you want to keep talking about that? We both have a little bit different views on the nicotine. I actually think it's the same view, but we're coming at it from different angles. As someone who used to smoke versus someone who's trying an experiment out with nicotine, it's going to be a little bit different coming from both of us. So
I'm not going to smoke, though.
I think it'll be a really good conversation next week. So we'll do that, nicotine, next week.
Yes. What's your opinion on occasional so-called cheat meals to keep metabolism flexible? I'm assuming you are referring to cheat meals that include carbohydrates because you said to keep metabolism flexible. So I am opposed to that mentality. And here's why. The concept of metabolic flexibility basically suggests that your body should be able to swap between fueling with carbohydrates and glucose and fat and ketones readily. The problem is that most people are born with that ability, and then they get a formula-fed diet. They eat a bunch of processed carbohydrates at an early age, and they lose that fat metabolism ability. Once you go keto, you get it back, and you don't ever lose the ability to process carbohydrates and glucose. If I was to consume a chocolate cake right now made with sugar, my body would be able to metabolize that sugar just fine. You don't lose the ability to metabolize sugar. So there's no need to really go back and forth from a metabolic flexibility standpoint. If you are fat adapted, then you are metabolically flexible. There's no need to have the
If it came down to it, and one day we could not get a hold of meat or eggs or anything like that, we would be able to survive still on the things of the earth, like vegetables and wheat and breads and things like that. But I feel like a lot of people, when they have their cheat meal, are not eating the things of the earth. They're eating processed junk most of the time. There are a few that stick to sweet potatoes, things like that. But we would be able to adjust. Our bodies would be able to adjust. Now, Do I really think there's going to come a day where we have no animals to eat and no eggs to eat and things like that? Probably not. So I'm not really too worried about that. But I do believe that if Robert and I were going through a big financial struggle and we weren't able to afford to go buy meat and things like that,
And to hunt more.
he would hunt more. But in that case, we would not have a hard time going back to eating carbohydrates, which we would do everything in our power possible to not, but we would be able to do it easily enough. Let me get to this one because this is the second to the protein to fat with glucose. Okay, 1-to-1 ratio, or maybe a bit more fat, minimum carbs, bad dawn phenomenon that takes half the day to come down, then it starts going back up before bed. Very weird.
That is very strange.
It is pretty strange.
I don't know what your composition is looking like. The more muscle tissue you have, the better you're going to be able to process blood sugar. So I would definitely make sure you are weight training or doing some form of resistance training in which you can metabolize that blood sugar better. But if you're eating the right ratios of quality fats and proteins, that shouldn't be causing a significant increase in circulating blood sugar levels. Stress. Yeah.
Wow.
Stress,
They were both about to hit at that. Stress is a huge thing with blood sugar.
Stress and sleep can definitely have an impact there. So make sure that's dialed in.
Yeah. Even when you're pregnant, you have a higher chance of your glucose going higher. When you're exercising, even you'll have a little bit of a spike, things like that. So if you are a person who has very high anxiety or high stress, keeping an eye on your glucose, blood sugar, could be really helpful to help you figure out what you can do to help that go down. Also, if you're not sleeping, did you mention that?
Yeah, I was about to. Sleep and stress tied together for sure.
If you aren't sleeping very well, you're not going to be recovered either. So your mind's not going to be recovered, your body's not going to be recovered. So I would focus on those things. Make sure you're getting plenty of sleep. Make sure you're trying to reduce your stress. And then, what was the other thing you mentioned?
Making sure you're getting enough fat and protein from good sources.
Yeah.
Do you ever boredom eat or snack? I guess with a toddler, you don't have time for boredom. He's going fast, and I'm sure requires even more energy to catch up with him. So honestly, I've got so much going on right now with life in general, Rigel included for sure, but like with the businesses, the traveling, the competitions, the conferences, like I don't have time to be bored. So I don't really ever eat out of boredom per se.
Yeah, I don't think either one of us are really boredom eaters. I think I used to do that a lot, but I didn't have the know-how to avoid it when I was that way.
Yeah.
Thoughts on why there is so much childhood obesity? Look at the food that's out there. Yep. Look at what they're telling people to eat. That would be my number one thing. I think a lot of it stems from looking at the adults. The majority of the U.S. is obese. And when obese people are raising children, their children are going to be likely having the same lifestyle. They're going to be eating the same types of foods, things like that. And because they're starting them from so little, they're more likely to be following the same trend. So there's a ton of dyes. There's a ton of sugar in everything. People just don't really generally eat a whole food approach. There is a ton of fast food restaurants. There is a ton, there's so much trash food out there. And there's other things that in my mind that I also think stem from that as well. But
there's an epigenetic component as well. So like if you're overweight and obese and have type 2 diabetes and then you get pregnant, the likelihood that the downstream effect of that is going to impact not only your kids, but 3 generations deep is there as well. So there's going to be like a compounding effect.
But that's not an excuse either. A lot of people will be like, it's just genetic. Like I'm just overweight. It's my genetics. You can override your genetics, but it might take extra work.
All right, we're getting a ton of questions now. I catch up. Is the tobacco organic? So there's no tobacco. Like I don't do any tobacco products at all. It's just pure nicotine. So there's no tobacco in it at all. Thanks. I agree. You bet. Hey, y'all. What's up, Pete? What was the Waterloo flavor you liked? Vanilla?
Vanilla orange or orange vanilla.
Orange vanilla. It's the best. Hey,
It's
hey,
so good.
everyone. What's up, Keto Simple? Do you guys still keep in contact with Matt and Mega? Yeah, I texted them not too long ago and said howdy, hope all is well. Haven't talked to them super recently, but yeah, no hard feelings at all. Hope they are doing amazingly well.
Sorry.
No, that's pretty much it.
DEXA scan said 126 pounds of muscle, lots of body weight to lose. Stress could be it totally. I need to dedicate more time to lifting. Yep.
Yeah, stress and more muscle tissue. That would definitely help for sure.
Hello from Puerto Rico. What's up?
Doing my cut started at 25% body fat, 238, 3 weeks to go, and down to 205, probably 20% body fat. Still a fatty, working on it. Hey, going from 25 to 20 is super impressive.
That is.
238 to 205 is super impressive. Whatever you're doing, it's working, so keep rocking and rolling.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Question about weight training. Sometimes I lift the same weights and have soreness, and sometimes I don't. Is soreness usually an indication of muscle growth or adaptation? So soreness, I don't really hardly get sore that much anymore.
I get sore all the time.
Yeah.
We're very different.
Different styles of training are going to elicit different types of soreness. If you change your training style drastically, then you're going to likely be sore. You've got something called DOMS, which is delayed onset muscle soreness, especially if you take some time off from training and then hit it hard. Your body's not going to be accustomed to that training. But if you are, one of the benefits of a ketogenic diet, honestly, is that the ketogenic diet, an increase in circulating blood ketones, upregulates monocarboxylic transporters. Probably said that wrong. MCT transporters, not to be confused with medium chain triglycerides. Different thing altogether. But those same pathways help clear lactate from the body. Lactic acid is what creates a lot of that soreness. So if you're more efficiently clearing that lactate, you are not going to be as sore. So I get significantly less sore now that I'm following a ketogenic diet than I did when I was eating carbohydrates. So that's something there. And then if you're like going super hard and intense and doing a lot of volume stuff, that is obviously going to make you more sore as well.
Hey, from Mississippi.
MISSAS is a PPI. Death face. Yeah, I'm definitely starting to get a little gaunt in the face for sure. Look at the commercials we grew up with since the 80s. The complete breakfast with cereal, bread, orange juice, maybe some eggs. Yeah. Pretty much, I said this on the podcast today. Like, the more, I'm not trying to be a contrarian in life just for the sake of being a contrarian, but honestly, if I look at most of the recommendations from the top down, like all these bureaucratic entities, all these health and wellness entities that are governmentally backed and bought and paid for by big pharma, big food, big corporations, lobbyists, I pretty much do the opposite of what they recommend, and my health improves. So there's that. Thank you. You betcha. I am following your program to a T. I have a My Macros app. So helpful. Your program has gave me the best results. I freaking love it. That's awesome. Are you doing the Deeper State Keto program, or what are you doing exactly? No, I use what's called slow burn weight training. It's basically one set lifting very slow to failure at about 60 to 90 seconds. I do it once a week. A few times I use adjustable dumbbells at home. All right. So any movement is better than no movement. If you are seeing progress, you're obviously doing something right, and I encourage you to keep doing what's sustainable for you and creating progress for you. However, that said, I've never really been a fan of the whole slow burn weight training methodology. I don't think it's as effective as it could be, and I just don't think it's optimal. Like, I think if you're truly trying to change the composition, there are better ways to do it. But again, everybody's got to start with where they're at. So I don't know what your prior weight training history is. If that's the best way for you to get momentum going, then by all means, rock and roll with the slow burn. But I wouldn't recommend that being the only thing you ever do from a weight training standpoint, if that makes sense. About the book, and I've watched your current and past prep videos. Well, awesome. I am so glad to hear that. I'm going to be coming out with a course before too long that I'm super excited about.
Super in-depth, major detail.
Yeah, it is going to be
massive.
I can confidently say that this course will be the greatest course for body recomposition via a ketogenic diet ever. 100%. Like, no questions asked. Nothing online will come close. I can confidently say that it's going to be the best thing out there, bar none. No competition, no questions asked. That's not too confident of me, is it? It's pretty accurate. It's good for older people over 50. Yeah, I mean, it is definitely great. It's going to have less strain on your skeletal system. But don't sell yourself short. I know a lot of clients. I've got a lot of clients that are competing in bodybuilding shows, killing it, and they're all over 50. So you can do a lot at any age. So I don't recommend you not do more simply because you are over 50. Obviously, don't injure yourself or do anything crazy. But I wouldn't limit yourself to the slow burn protocol just because you're over 50.
Okay, I don't know how to properly say this. Is it kefir or kefir? I'm pretty sure you can say it either way. Thoughts on kefir? We love it. Just curious. Your thoughts? Homemade, of course.
I think he's eating the marker.
I don't know the top's off.
Pretty sure it is.
You can go get him. I'm going to talk about this.
No, he knows top's off. He was eating one without the top on. He's got the eraser. He's eating the eraser.
I already got the eraser. Anyways, I love it. I think it's great. I think homemade is even better. I'm a big fan. Robert doesn't do a whole lot. I do. Rigel does. I think it's wonderful. Keep going with it.
Keep rocking
I
it.
think it's great for your gut. All the things.
I can actually see my soreness and rips in my abs. Stoked. That's freaking awesome. You start seeing all the different definition and body parts and muscle separation. It gets super exciting for sure.
How can I ensure I'm eating fiber on keto? Jump with that.
First of all, why do you feel so compelled to include fiber on keto? If it's because you honestly like fibrous foods, like some vegetation, you respond well to them, then by all means continue to eat them. Fiber is one of these really controversial topics, and there are a lot of studies that link fiber as showing to reduce risks of cancer, heart disease, all that stuff. The problem with a lot of those studies is that they're done in a population that's eating a standard American diet, in which case it would be advantageous to have the fiber in their system. But if you're not eating very much crap food, then you don't really need that much fiber to push it through your system because you're absorbing all the quality food. So I don't make a big deal of fiber. I don't have hardly any fiber on a day-to-day basis, and I don't feel like my health is hindered whatsoever. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I don't want to play well on the internet. But I think fiber requirements, if you're following a quality ketogenic diet, are a bit overrated.
I will say, on the other hand, my dad is someone who has had diverticulitis twice now and is prone to getting it in the future. So he is actually full on pretty much carnivore, I'd say 90% of the time. And he does supplement with fiber. He doesn't eat a lot of vegetables and things like that, but he does supplement with fiber. And the reason for that is because it helps him to know that things are moving. It adds bulk to your stool and helps you to see things are exiting properly. His doctor does suggest that he does take fiber, and I think it helps him mentally feel like he is getting things going, getting things moving, because the problem for him is when things stop moving as well. So if that is a concern for you, then you can take the fiber supplement, or you can take other forms of fiber or vegetables or whatever, and make sure that you're getting plenty, and you'll see that bulk in your stool.
Gabriel says, trying to cut the carbs again today. I managed to sleep a few hours with melatonin, but had a nasty headache the day after. Going to try to tough it out for a few weeks and incorporate some electrolytes. Definitely incorporate electrolytes.
Yes, for sure.
2-to-1 ratio of sodium to potassium works well for most people. That's going to help a lot with the headaches and the cramping. So make sure you're eating or taking in enough electrolytes and fluid.
Thank you so much. Love following your keto journey while I navigate mine.
Awesome. We're glad to have you here. Have you thought of a cranberry or sour keto brick flavor?
Sour.
So I have not thought of a sour one, but we have got
Rigel.
We've got all kinds of new flavors in the works, y'all. So get ready for some exciting stuff ahead. Yeah, I am 50 as well. So, and Pete G is rocking. He's got visible separation in his muscles, so he's doing something right. That's why your protocol is the best. Keeps fat higher, which leads to no need for fiber.
Yes.
This cut is so easy compared to when I was fasting for days on end to cut.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't recommend fasting for fat loss. Like, there are reasons to fast, but I don't ever really recommend them from a fat loss standpoint. Can creatine help with leg pain and fatigue in the legs? So creatine is great for converting ADP, adenosine diphosphate back into ATP, and then it's triphosphate, which is the energy of the cell, so to speak. It also helps from a neurological standpoint, helps prevent muscle loss. It keeps the muscle tissue hydrated, so that's a good thing. That hydration of the muscle tissue may certainly help with leg pain and fatigue. So I would recommend creatine just in general for everybody. Simple 5 grams a day works well for most. And then make sure you're taking in ample electrolytes and ample fluid. That all in unison should certainly help with leg pain and fatigue. All right, y'all.
We hit the bottom of it.
We hit the bottom of it. We got through all the questions. We are 40 minutes, 38 seconds in. And we missed y'all. We love y'all. And we're so glad to be back in town for a week before we travel again.
Yep.
We'll
talk to you guys next week about nicotine.
Yes, that'll be the topic for next week. Here we go. One more. How do I know the total amount of electrolytes needed? I am doing 2 Redmonds. So everybody's going to be a little bit different. You can basically reset your electrolyte equilibrium at a higher or lower level. I've been pushing it up quite high. I'm doing about 10 grams of sodium a day right now, and my body's responding well to that. So I would just titrate it up slowly and see what your body responds well to. Keep up the good work. Will do. Thank you, David. And hello and goodbye. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all. Much love to you, and talk to you soon.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.